We've come a long way from the cartoonish depictions of Jews in films from earlier decades. Gone are the glued-on sidelocks and laughably inaccurate portrayals of Jewish customs, and we should be thankful for that. But the old representations have been replaced by a more subtle, sinister type of portrayal. It's one where the clothing and customs are better researched. The kippah and the tallis are real, but that only conceals a profound lack of respect for what Jews and Judaism really are. In a word, it is the erasing of Jewish identity in the worst way possible. Here's the Mensch Sense take. Marvel's 2022 TV series Moon Knight is an excellent case study because it highlights the hypocrisy of an industry that appears to take so much pride in diversity and inclusion. Moon Knight follows a man named Mark Spector who suffers from a multiple personality disorder but finds empowerment as he embodies the supernatural abilities of the Egyptian god Khonshu. Throughout the series, he becomes enmeshed in a divine drama played out amongst different Egyptian deities, an ordeal that takes him to the Egyptian afterlife and back again. There was much fanfare about the series because it broke many boundaries. With an Egyptian director and a cast where 90% of the Egyptian characters were played by true Egyptians, it was a shining example of how a series could give an authentic voice to those portrayed in the narrative. The Hollywood Reporter beamed about how much representation was given to Egyptians and how for the first time young Arab children could look up to a superhero of their own. This is all praiseworthy, but consider for a moment that Moon Knight is not just an Egyptian story, it is also a Jewish one. Even in the comic books, Mark Spector, the main character, is Jewish. We are given a glimpse into his Jewish upbringing and even a touching scene where he stands outside the Shiva house of his own mother. So if it's both a story about Jews and Egyptians, there should be equal representation between the two, right? If that's true, then what percentage of the Jewish characters would you guess are played by Jewish actors? 90%? 80%? How about 0%? Mark is played by 3 actors of different ages, none of whom are Jewish. The actors playing his parents, also not Jewish. Makes you wonder if the rabbi in this scene is even played by a Jew. But the lack of Jewish actors isn't even the worst offense of Moon Knight. No, that's reserved for the storyline itself. Mark's mental illness plays a huge part in the storyline. By the end of the series, Mark has learned to embrace his illness and even view it as an asset.
You are the only real superpower I ever had.
But by no means does he do this through his Jewish identity. In fact, quite the opposite. Mark's mental illness is a result of the abusive treatment of his Jewish mother, coupled with the impotence of his Jewish father. He derives no closure or healing from the Jewish mourning ritual of the Shiva. Judaism consistently causes only more anguish to his life. So where does his salvation come from? Why, from Egyptian mythology, of course. It's odd enough that when Mark dies, he is transported to the Egyptian afterlife rather than the Jewish one. But to add salt to the wound, it's the Egyptian afterlife where he confronts his demons, finds his strength, and reconciles with his past. How convenient. All of this adds up to an unbelievable level of hypocrisy on the part of the producers of the show. How could they be so sensitive to one minority while simultaneously ignoring another? The truth is, this is nothing new. In the Western imagination, Jews are not really seen as a separate minority, but rather as a white subculture. That's what led Whoopi Goldberg famously to say that Jews didn't get persecuted for their race in the Holocaust.
The Holocaust isn't about race.
And that makes Moon Knight even more absurd, because Mark Spector is a descendant of dark Spanish Sephardi Jews, and Hollywood still doesn't acknowledge him as an ethnicity worth protecting. At worst, Jewish culture in film and television is discarded and mocked as the embarrassing punchline of a joke.
Don't shake that hand.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Because Aaron's a Jew. Oh, gross.
At best, it is used as a nondescript filler for a character's backstory, enough to make the character sound interesting, but without having to actually explore what makes that character distinctly Jewish. In Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch, one of the main characters is Jewish, but we only know it because of this throwaway line.
Born rich, the son of a Jewish Mexican horse rancher.
We never hear about his Jewishness again, because Jewishness is more window dressing than an actual identity. The common denominator is that being Jewish is only effective as a contrast to some more important identity, but almost never as its own source of pride, strength, or meaning. In a society that pays lip service to valuing individual differences and highlighting the lived experiences of historically oppressed minorities, it appears that there's one very large blind spot. And that is the lack of any portrayal of what makes a Jewish character, well, Jewish. And that makes mensch sense.